Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions BBQ podcast, we're talking with a man who's changing the face of barbecue in Australia. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. This is episode 113 of the Smoking Hot Confessions BBQ podcast. Now before we get started, I just want to run a couple of quick announcements by you, and we'll get that out of the way before we get stuck into it. So, first up, next week we are formally launching our new sister business to Smoking Hot Confessions, Meat and Fire Media Services. We're taking all of the things that we do here to promote Smoking Hot Confessions, and we're making them available as services to other businesses out there. We're kicking things off with our very first online course, which is brand building through strategic social media marketing. In this course, we take you through the exact systems, strategies, and tools that we use here to promote Smoking Hot Confessions. The lessons are videos with downloadable worksheets and transcripts to make sure we have everybody's learning styles covered. And as a pre-launch special, we want to give all you podcast listeners a 25% discount on this course. If you're ready to take social media marketing seriously, head on over to meatandfiremediaservices.com/all-courses and use the code word podcast at checkout. Now, if you'd like to help us out, give this video a like and a share on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, a thumbs up, a subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you're on Instagram TV, give it a heart and a follow. And if you're listening to this on a podcast app, do give it a 5-star rating and review. It only takes a minute of your time, but it really does help us out. Now, today's episode, I'm talking with a man who's built a barbecue business on a very unique business plan. It's not one I've ever seen before. He and his team are responsible for bringing several big-name US pitmasters to Australia to share their smoky wisdom. He's set up a reciprocal competition agreement whereby winners from sister competitions in Australia and the US get to travel to those sister competitions, opening up opportunities on both continents for all competitors. Recently, they've put on Australia's first in-person barbecue competition since COVID with the Backyard Barbecue Series. And if you haven't worked it out by now, I'm talking with Cason Linto from BBQ Events Australia. So today we're going to find out how Cason got into barbecue. We're going to learn all about BBQ Events Australia and what they do and how they do it. And we're going to, of course, talk about that beautiful Backyard Barbecue Series. And then we're going to finish out some episode with some tips and techniques for people looking to get into competition barbecue. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Alrighty, Cason, welcome to the confessional, my friend. It is great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ben, and congratulations on that Meat Fire video, new platform that you're launching. That sounds really good. I might have to send some of the team over there to get some pointers and sign up with you guys, I think. So.
Sounds great, mate. Sounds great. It's very exciting. It's been in the works for a long time now, so we're very excited to be finally getting it out there and starting the ball rolling.
Excellent.
So tell me, my friend, what was the last thing that you barbecued?
The last thing I barbecued, actually, at the moment, my household's stuck on tri-tips, has been for years. We cook everything, but tri-tips are sort of a weekly staple in the house. And one of the butchers here in Perth that we work closely with on sponsoring some of our events actually got onto some MB9 Wagyu tri-tips. Now, I know you guys get decent marble stuff on the East Coast because we've seen them when we've flown over to Sydney and that. We generally don't get too many of them over here. So every time he gets them in the shop, I'm sort of buying 6 to 8 units every time he gets them in. He thinks that we're bootlegging the amount that we're buying, but tri-tip, mate. Tri-tip's nice and easy one. So.
Mate, I do love tri-tip, but I cannot find it over here. It occasionally comes through Super Butcher, but the first time I went to try and buy it, I had to go to 17 butchers before I found someone who even knew what I was talking about. So I'm very jealous that you've got it in abundance over there.
Yeah, it's good, mate. Seriously, and it's taken off. Obviously, it's a quick cook, mate. But just so many things you can do with it. It's I've got a couple of fussy eaters in the house, mates, and it satisfies them. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Just trying to get some good nutrients into the kids.
That's it.
Yeah. So tell us how you like to cook those tri-tips.
Yeah, so because of the marble score, the ones that I've been getting lately, I used to do everything indirect and reverse sear like everyone else does, because generally years back, the tri-tips that we always had come across the shelves here in Perth were always quite lean. They were just your normal tri-tips. Actually, with these high marble score, last year, I was over in Las Vegas with Chef Dildell, and he had a highly marbled tri-tip, and he chucked that thing straight on the grill. And I got to confess, mate, that's a lot of the ways that I've been doing it of late. So just straight over fire and just giving it a real good quick sear. Seems to be working. I haven't tried it, as I said, on the lean cuts, but those highly marbled ones work beautiful on the sear for a quick sear. So, yeah, it's good.
So what's the difference then between a highly marbled reverse sear and a highly marbled direct sear? You just wouldn't, obviously timing, right? So you wouldn't put that lean cut straight over. Well, I haven't, so I'm not going to say you wouldn't, but I've never put a lean cut directly over a grill situation scenario. I just obviously doing that low and slow and reverse seared, you always get a bang on product every time. Maybe I need to try it, who knows? But I know with that highly marbled stuff, straight over that direct heat, it's a really quick cook. We can put some heavy spices on there, get a nice char in it, and it's up on the plates pretty quickly. So that's sort of the lazy man's way of doing it, I suppose. So yeah, fair enough. Any of the ways that you're talking about sound absolutely delicious to me, my friend. So what? So what barbecue are you doing that on?
At the moment, I've predominantly got Weber's here. I've also got recently, which I've been doing these tri-tips on, is I got one of the original the M grills, the C4 ammo cases.
Yeah, right.
Justin from Riveracks bought me one of those as a surprise a couple of months ago and dropped it over. And, I've been playing around with that. And those tri-tips fit perfectly on that ammo case. So it's great, just set it down, get the coals going, and off we go. So, yeah, that's otherwise, if it's indirect, then it's on the Weber's or the Smoky Mountain, I'll put it in with some other proteins. So.
Beautiful, yeah. Now I've only seen those M4 ammo cases in photos. How are they for size compared to like a Weber Go Anywhere? It seems to me they're sort of similar.
Yeah. No, they're a lot smaller than the Weber GA. So you'd only probably get maybe a 1.1, 1.2 kilo tri-tip on one of those without choking it out. So it is a lot smaller. But just in all honesty, mate, we're all showmen. With the barbecue scene, we love having toys, right? So on the weekend we used it. We cooked a whole heap of duck chorizo from one of our sponsors. You could fit about 6 or 7 of the big snags on there. So look, it's good for those sort of short home cooks, for a small amount of people. So it's a good little unit, mate. It's good. It's good.
It sounds like it'll be a great little SCA grill.
Yeah, perfect. And that's where obviously I got onto them, is seeing those group on the SCA. A lot of those guys were using either those or using Vic's chimney cartel style on the kettles, chimneys. So, Vic's the innovative man, right? So, but that's where I first come across those ammo cases, and I knew one when I saw it. But lucky enough, it was gifted to me, mate. So, yeah, it's good. Even
better, my friend, even better. So tell us about BBQ Events Australia. How did that come about?
Yes, so we started back in would have been 2017. I think it was about 2016, 2017. Wife had bought me a smoker for Father's Day. I wasn't sort of in the scene, and there was no classes or anything for me to learn from apart from online. And it just so happened a couple of months after me getting that Weber Smoky Mountain, the small one, Harry Sue's classes came up in Sydney. So I actually flew over from Perth and did his course out there, the one-day course. Got blown away, came back, cook, stuck a heap of weight on and sort of grew from there. Realised that obviously not much was happening here in Perth, so saw an opportunity with Harry and a few other people that we sort of made friends with after that first class. And we just started doing small events here. So we started out obviously bringing Steve Block from Desperado Barbecue. Harry Sue, we've had out a couple of times now. We've had Big Mo over. I think that's the last time you and I caught up. Actually, no, it's the last time we interviewed, I think, would have been with Mo when we saw you at Smokin in the Valley, right? So, we sort of transitioned away from primarily initially just bringing people in to do these classes because, the barbecue pool is fairly small. Still, there's a lot of people coming in, but not everyone's diehard fans. So the business model didn't make sense to continue down that path. So we bring these guys in now when we do events and festivals, and that's sort of where we're moving now. Is the barbecue comps and the festivals. So that's where we're at. We linked up with Debbie Yopp, who owns the Brew'n'Que Festival in NorCo, California, Horsetown. She actually spoke to us about putting on an event down here in Perth. We took over the rights for Australia for BBQ Australia, which was held last year in October. And like you said at the beginning of the show, we needed to have something a little bit different or point of difference to what was going on in the scene. So we advertised that the winner of Perth Brew'n'Que flies over and competes at the Brew'n'Que in California, and likewise California wins, they come over to Perth, just to start that sort of relationship and build the brand. Daniel Barrett was the lucky winner last October. However, he's been a bit cursed because obviously the C word COVID has hit everywhere, and his flights are sitting in hold at the moment for him to go over. So I know he's keen to get over, but yeah, obviously Brew'n'Que Los Angeles or California was cancelled and postponed this year. So yeah, he'll be ready to go as soon as we can get him over there.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's going to be awesome.
It's a longer story than that, but that's basically it in a nutshell, mate. So yeah.
Yeah, right. So you started out bringing celebrity barbecuers over for classes, and now you've expanded into festivals and events. How are your festivals and events different to other festivals and things like that?
Well, I can only base it on what we've had here in Perth. I haven't been to anything over on the East Coast. I haven't been to Meat Stockton and Burley and all those guys. Those comps. Obviously, it is on my wish list eventually to get over there. But look, I think we incorporated the beer side to ours. So Brew'n'Que is obviously brew for beers. Like I said before, that the barbecue scene is quite small, and you've got people filtering in. But we needed to expand that demographic to have those events put on the show that we ultimately want to put on. So that has to include extra interest and beer, mate. I mean, beer and barbecue goes in here. Right? So I think Julian D'Souza up in Queensland, he does the beer roadshow or the barbecue and beer roadshow, is it? Yeah, so he obviously worked that out as well. That's the main point of difference we do here. And obviously that enticing of those international guests coming over to compete, and then our guys having the chance to go over and compete in the States. That's on every team's wish list, right? So to be actually able to give the airfares to those guys, give them their equipment, and also organise their proteins, I mean, that's 90% of your trip organised for you, right? So that's the main point of difference that we're doing compared to everyone else.
Yeah, that's a huge difference too. Just to like I've travelled overseas to compete myself, and I know the headache that can be the working out all the logistics. So for you guys to have that already lined up for the winners, that makes the whole process so much easier and so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think the reason why that flagged for us to go down that road and actually add that added expense to the events is because when we started seeing, especially with the KCBS format, that teams were winning tickets to go to the American Royal and that, what we were finding is the teams were celebrating, yeah, we got the Royal, and then all of a sudden I was getting phone calls and emails saying, hey, have you got any contacts over in the States, because we need to source out, some equipment, and we need to get on suppliers, right? And it was a common theme every time these teams were winning tickets overseas. So I just said to the team at the time, you know what, we can continue taking these phone calls, or we can just source everything over there because we've got the network, especially with Brew'n'Que team being there. We get the equipment set up. Once it's done it's all there for everyone to use. They don't have the opportunity to say, hey, I want a certain pellet grill, or I want a certain offset or whatever. We've just got standard equipment that they've got to run with. So, but it's there. If they want to get more and use different to what we have, by all means they can do it. But the core stuff for them to get over there and land, compete, fly out, it's all set up, ready to go.
It's so good, mate. It's so good. Now, you mentioned Big Mo Cason there before, and I think that was November 2018 was when I went over to Smokin on the Water there. And he didn't just come over to compete. You guys had him doing a whole bunch of stuff. Tell us about what you had Big Mo doing.
Yeah. So it's funny, actually. Mo, it wasn't. So when Mo left the States and landed here, we had him booked to do 2 days of masterclasses, like he does. He does well, right? So we had him booked for those 2 days, but we also on each of the Monday through Thursday before the weekend classes, we actually held some nights where people who couldn't afford to come to his main class could still catch up with the man, right? Because everyone wants to see and get photos with him, right? So we had a cigar night one night at a private cigar lounge because he obviously loved his cigars. So we had a cigar and whiskey night one night for people to sign up to. Mo loves his fishing, so we had a fishing trip with him. I think it was 8 guests on that, so people got to sign up for that. We did a whiskey tasting night. We had a whole heap of micro events around his visit, leading into then his main classes on the Saturday and Sunday. So, mate, when he left the States to come out and do those planned, he knew about obviously those micro events in his main class. He didn't make the decision to compete until Wednesday, before the Wednesday, like just before the comp.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, so when he flew, he wasn't even on his radar to do that comp. It was a last-minute thing. And he said, you know what, Jason, I want to give it a go. And I went, are you sure? And he said, yeah. So that's what he did. And he ended up winning a GC on that. But, he had the most to lose, right? So he flies in and he's got local teams going up against him. So it was good for the teams to go up against, sort of an international guy like that. It worked out well, man. So.
Yeah, it was a great boon for the Australian barbecue scene for an Australian competition to be attractive to such a big name American competitor, and we're starting to see that over here on this side of the pond as well. And where I think it's fantastic that the Australian barbecue scene has grown so much that our competitions are now a draw card to bring people to Australia, whereas traditionally it's always been the other way around. We've been drawn to other countries to go compete. So, yeah, I think you're doing some really great and important work for the scene there.
Yeah, and as I said, like Jay and all those guys are doing awesome stuff as well, attracting, those international. I mean, that's exactly what we all need to be doing, right? So we need these guys want to come here, not us having to chase over there all the time. We want to go over there, but we need to build that structure so they want to be coming here. And you know what? You won't hear anyone go back to the States and they've had a bad time. Whether it be with the guys over on the East Coast or us here, they go back and they're happy. So that's the main thing. They're spreading that word for us. So
Yeah, I know for me personally, it was a real highlight of that trip. I was on the Saturday night, the first day of the competition. The event closed, and I was hanging out at the bar with some of the competitors, yourself, Julianne, and then Mo just sort of came over, and then someone else brought over an entire tray of he'd cooked like a whole lamb, and just brought a giant tray with a whole lamb on it. And just sat there with Mo and yourself and Julianne just chatting and just ripping chunks off this lamb and eating it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's all good, mate. So as I said, he had a good time here, and I know he's keen to get back over here, and we will sort of in the future getting back over here. But it's been a good ride so far, mate. So Australia's a good place to come. US, you need to come over.
Definitely, yeah. Now, You're doing a whole lot of new things that a lot of people haven't done before. So what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome?
They haven't really been challenges. The biggest thing is getting the right team around me. We've had a few movements within the team structure since I last spoke to you in an interview, and it hasn't been sort of negative departures or changes. It's just sort of people's pathways change, how busy they are outside. Because you got to remember that our team, we're not working this full time officially. It's not a full time paid gig. We've all got our own businesses. We've all got our own jobs, full time jobs. So we're sort of slamming after hours and getting to that line. The hardest challenge would be just making sure and getting those right team members around us that are able to keep up with us trying to push the boundaries, right, and change the system and entice new people, spectators, players into the game. That's the biggest thing. So, not everyone. I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I must have ADHD, mate. I'm sure of it. So, I've got 1,000 sort of thoughts come through in my mind every hour. So, for the team to be able to keep up with me and actually also be able to match me in some of those ideas, that's the biggest challenge, mate. So,
yeah, no doubt about that. And so, what sort of procedures have you had to put in place? So you mentioned that you have like a million thoughts a minute. Do you dictate them to Siri? How do you handle that flow of consciousness?
I'm in regular contact with Matt Price, who you met when we interviewed with Mo. Matt's moved into the operations director role now here with the company, so he's able to take a lot of phone calls at work. So basically, I'm pretty efficient at filtering out the 999 thoughts every hour, and I normally get it down to one or two, and I'll get on the phone, and you know, especially pre-event, we've got some stuff coming up. You know, there's some days there where Matt will, at the end of the day, send me a laughing emoji, and he'll then do a screenshot of our call history, and it'll be like 30, 40 calls for the day. So, he's the ultimate business partner. He takes it really well. I mean, most people would have had enough by now. But look, I think I filter through pretty quickly, and I just we analyse, and we throw these ideas out, and we generally try and make a decision within the hour. Like, we don't sit on them too long. They're either going to work or they're not. And there's a really good synergy between the two of us. We can normally filter through that crap, so to speak. That's how we work. So it's not for everyone, and you know, it is hard. I'm not the easiest person to work around. Seriously, it's but he does a good job. So yeah.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
And so speaking of successes, what's been the biggest successes that you've had with BEA?
I think lately, I think biggest success is actually we teamed up with an absolute awesome guy who's Hezzy, who owns Honeybricks and Pit Boss Charcoal. So you might have seen on the pages, we've been pushing that pretty hard over the last sort of 12 months or so. Hezzy's really good. We pitched an idea recently to him that, you know, we wanted to build the scene here in Perth, and one of the ways we're going to do that is through the Backyarder series. So we're running a 4-part Backyarder series, which is all designed around getting new people that may have been sitting on the fringes and looking and going, man, we should grab some mates and have a crack at that. But they haven't done it, right? So this series has been all about trying to get those people in. So I pitched the idea. Actually, we flew over. So October was when Brew'n'Que was. We flew over that week straight after Brew'n'Que. I flew to Melbourne and met with Hezzy and his team and said, we want to do some nurturing and build the scene. And we pitched the idea of the Backyarder series, and pretty much from that day onwards, he's been on board and backing us. So that's probably been our biggest accomplishment to date, that we've managed to team up with a gold partner like that, that embraces our vision and actually has the same vision that we have to sort of grow the scene. So that's been the big one.
Yeah, I haven't actually cooked on either Honeybricks or the Pit Boss Charcoal myself, but I've heard great things about it. People who use it rave about it.
The biggest thing is it takes a bit to get going. It's all natural products. It takes a bit to get going. But once it gets going, it's especially the Honeybricks. Once you finish with the cook, you can shut your unit down, and those Honeybricks, you relight those rods, so you get another cook out of those easy. So it's very efficient, very clean. Now, we've heard people whinging to us, especially here in WA, oh man, there's no aroma from it. Well, that's why we use fruit woods, right? That's why we chuck fruit woods on. It's great getting your charcoal smoke, but they're a very clean burning fuel. So it allows people to play with the flavours a bit more with the fruit woods and actually, you know, understand the fruit woods, right? So, but yeah, it is a great product. So one of the things we're doing with that Backyarder series is to take the daunting, a feeling of jumping into competition. We provide the teams with all the fuel, so they're all using the same fuel. They bring their own smokers, but we're providing all the same fuel. We provide all the proteins. So the chicken and pork is all provided to the team. So every team is cooking on the exact same thing.
Wow.
So the only variable is your rubs and your timeline and procedures. Everything else is sort of an even playing field for these new guys.
Wow, that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, we spoke to a few teams that were looking, especially after Brew'n'Que. We asked them about what stopped them from jumping in for Brew'n'Que, right? And the one thing they said was they don't know what cuts to do. They don't know. It was just overwhelming what they need to do. Hopefully this series shows them that even though it's only pork and chicken that they're cooking, that what to look for from their butchers and which butchers that we're showcasing with these products they can go to and use for future. They've only got to worry about the brisket, their pork butts from there on. But, the half of the battle's done, right? It gets them over that confidence, lack of confidence, and they actually jump into the scene. So I think it's a great concept. It needed to happen because what we were seeing over the last few years is that it was the same guard, so to speak, of teams that were in there, and they're all great bunch of guys on the circuit. But the problem is Team A jumps and drops off because he's now doing something else in life. There was nothing coming through filling Team A's spot. So I think a massive lesson for everyone Australia-wide is that we need to be concentrating on the actual competition circuit, but we need to be looking years down and actually building that scene up now and bringing people through so that we can actually build it and not just maintain the same numbers that we've had sort of over the last few years. So that's what we're focusing on.
It sounds like you're kind of building like an amateur league to sort of bring people through into the big competitions.
Yeah, well, everyone relates back to footy, right? So it's like getting your reserves set up, ready to go for your league. So that's what we're doing at the moment, and it's going well. I mean, none of the teams have whinged about doing 4 rounds of just chicken and pork, right? We've talked to them and said, man, if you nail this stuff, then you guys need to be hitting the main comps. You should be nailing chicken and pork in those main comps, right? So you just need to worry about your other projects. But, it's been fun today. These guys are enjoying sort of learning. Our team will walk around on the day and they'll actually give them tips and tricks. It's not too much, but, they'll say, guys, you maybe don't need to bring all that extra equipment. And we've noticed even from round 1 and round 2, we had teams turning up to do 2 proteins with 3-4 barbecues, right? Like we looked at unloading, we're going, man. But, next round they realise they come back with only 1 or 2. So, that it's not just about the cooking, it's about understanding what you need to run efficiently on the day and run cleanly. So I think it's a great program. And again, Hezi and Honeybrook's, Dave, without their backing, there's no money in it, right? So without their backing, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So we're in debt to those guys for sort of jumping on with what we want to do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you were talking about pork and chicken. What are they open categories? Can they cook any part of the chicken or any cut of pork?
At the moment, we've only done round 2, which is round 2 was 2 weeks ago because that was meant to be a number of months ago and got shut down from COVID. The first 2 rounds were only chicken thighs because I wanted to get used to chicken thighs. All right. It may be also because we had a bit of dramas presenting with rib racks last year, breasts over in the States and got slammed down, right? So I'm thinking, we didn't do too well with those. We copped a bit of flack with that. So we may look at it for round 3 and 4. That will go open category. But yeah, to date, it's only been those chicken thighs because, I mean, they're ultimately the hardest to do, right? So they can get used to doing those and get on track with that. It's going to help in the future.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the cut of pork there?
Round 1, baby backs. Round 2, we did St. Louis style. So yes, so they've had both styles now, and I'd say round 3 and 4 we will we'll probably we've yet to choose which rack we're going to do. Round 4 we haven't told the teams yet, but they're obviously going to see this. We're probably going to say to them, right, you've had 3 comps to work out the different cuts that you can use. Round 4 is you go and work out which one you do your own. So that'll let them make a decision and decide which they felt they did better with, and then we'll get some variety through the judges area. So it's a good program, mate. It's we truly believe in it. It's and as I said, it's lean money wise to put it on, but I think it's if we don't build that scene at this level now, we're going to run into problems in the next year or 2.
Yeah, well, you're essentially undertaking all this to kind of future-proof the barbecue scene. So,
of course, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you alluded earlier to round 2 having been delayed due to COVID. Your competition is, to my knowledge anyway, the first barbecue competition to be done in person since COVID. So, tell us a bit about how COVID has affected the way you're running those competitions.
Yeah, so there was a number of factors. It wasn't too hard. I mean, look, I'm not going to, Perth's in a fairly unique position that, sort of we've been hit by it, but not as badly over the East Coast, and we do feel for all you guys over there. But our restrictions got released and eased a lot earlier than you guys, hence why I think we're able to get that competition on first out of COVID. The first thing we had to work on was with the venue. So obviously the venue had a strict, spatial rule and how many people they could have. So that was the first one. Once we got that sort of worked out that, how many people and spectators we could get in there and what was still going to work for the venue with us, because obviously teams take up space, right? So we had to get that over the line that, we're going to take up this space, but, our barbecue guys drink. They're going to be spending money, so let's treat them as patriots, right? So once we sort of established that, the venue side was easy. The biggest thing that the teams had to do was, like the smokers in round 1, where they had too many, some of these teams had 3, 4, 5 members because they're all trying to learn together. We had to limit round 2 that they were only able to do a maximum 2 team members. So you had 2 team members in a 3x3 marquee space.
Right.
So I don't know if it caused any issues within the team ranks, but we didn't get any blowback because I think people were happy to just want to do that comp. So the teams basically had 2 people in the marquee. They all had wristbands on. They were instantly DQ'd if anyone outside of their team, so i.e. anyone other than the 2 team members, walked into that team area. Public, friends, family, it was an instant DQ.
Wow.
So that just stopped, mandatory gloves. Most teams do it anyway. They love the black gloves, man, for photos and stuff anyway, so it wasn't a big one, mate. Hand sanitizer and tongs within the tents. So that was pretty much the tent area. All our teams, before bumping in at the entrance gate, all had their temperatures read. So we had to do a temperature reading, make sure they weren't sick. We asked them a few questions about their history in the last 14 days of being around people and all this. So your standard sort of venue stuff. The judges were a little bit trickier because the ratios for judging weren't going to work with the amount of teams. So we almost had to go to a 1 judge, 1 team ratio, whereas it's normally 1.25 or 1.5 normally across there. We also had to make it that the table captains actually were part of that judge crew. They actually got to eat this time. Normally we'd have separate judges, table captains. So we had to limit the amount of people sitting in that judges tent. Judges normally select off the boxes themselves. They weren't to touch the food at all. So the table captains actually had tongs. They were then placed onto each of the scoring sheets, and that's sort of how we managed that. There were some other measures in place with temperature checks and hand sanitizing and all that sort of stuff, but that was the main changes that we had to do. So it wasn't anything major, but obviously we needed to protect everything from bump in to how the food was handled, to how the food presented, to how it got to the judges' mouths, and I think we did that pretty well. So
sounds like it was quite comprehensive there. And were they measures that you came up with yourself, or were they like government enforced guidelines?
No, so there was some government guidelines, but none of that, what I've just spoken to, was that was all stuff that we came up with. All our teams had to also do an online that COVID training. You would have seen the hospitality COVID training. So basically we said to the teams, you have to go on and do that COVID training as if you're in the hospitality sector because you're serving food. So that was the only government sort of guidelines that sort of were put in place. Everything else, we just sat down and went, right, what's our area of risk here? when you come through the entrance gate, what's the risk at this point? Okay, how do we deal with that? And we sort of just walk through each of the areas, and we put measures in place as a result. So it didn't affect the flow on the day. Because I think the team put some really good, simple procedures in place that were easy to follow. So, yeah, it was good. Hopefully we don't have to do it so heavy next round. That's in the end of August, but, who knows what's happening. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you might end up with a few Victorians. I was just reading the news today. There's a whole bunch of lockdown evaders, I think they're calling them.
Yeah, it's sad what's going on over there, and we do feel for it. But I know there's a lot of people that are annoyed that our borders are closed. But you know what? I think it had to be done. We got to try and get back to some normality as best we can. I heard the Prime Minister the other day saying that international travel is possibly not till 2023. I mean, that's just when you're talking about 2 years out from being able to travel the country. We need to really lock things down here in Australia. And anyway, I don't want to get into that. I know people got their views on it, right? So.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of took us down that that path.
It's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. So
yeah. You're obviously getting a good response to this backyard barbecue series from up and coming amateur teams. I mean, we say amateur teams, but I don't think we've actually really got any sort of professional teams at this stage. I don't think anyone's just living off their competition winnings. What's the greatest story that you could share from the different people's experiences in that competition?
I don't know if there's a specific story, to be honest, mate. We sort of have been nurturing that barbecue community spirit from day one, from when these guys sign up. So one of the ways we've done that is we've got a closed messenger group or message group, Facebook group, that only the teams are signed up to. This is where we release information on the rest. But I tell you what, there's many a night I've been sitting back and had a good laugh and put a massive smile on my face, because you see these guys, especially loading up to the event and then post-event, not banter, but just the interaction between the teams. Man, it's awesome to see. And these are guys that would never, ever have crossed paths anywhere else, you know what I mean? And yet they're on this chat and they're all, mate, these guys are all, there's no secrets in there. So they're all posting their test cooks, their practice cooks, right? And I'm thinking, man, I'm pretty sure we were told back in the day, you don't do that, right? So you keep your cards yourself. But, they're just happy to be involved in the scene. And that's the biggest thing that we found. It's not really a story, I suppose, but just seeing how these teams are sort of integrating into sport, that's a massive thing for us, mate. So, yeah.
Fair enough, yeah. And so would that be the biggest success that you've had with the Backyard Barbecue Series, would you say?
I think so, yeah. I think proof of concept, right? So getting that 1 in 1,000 an hour idea and getting it across the line and actually out in the field for the day, and seeing that the formula works, and seeing that the people that are involved with that format are enjoying it. Man, what more do you want? As I said, it's not about the money. It's about building that sport and building that team sort of pool up. Ultimately, what we want, we're not going to lie. Ultimately, what I want to see is that these 20 teams that we've got in the backyard this year are going to jump off for Brew'n'Que, right, and do our main festival and jump in and go, you know what, let's have a crack. So this year's going to be interesting. We only announced sort of a soft announce. We're only 75% of the way there. The Brew'n'Que is going ahead in October. It's going to be in a very different format than what we did last year. But we're now thinking that round 4 for the Backyard Series, we're going to do at Brew'n'Que. So
concurrently.
Yep. So we're going to do like we do in the States at Brew'n'Que in NorCo. The teams will do their normal hand-ins, normal timings, and then the backyarders actually do their hand-ins after that event. So we can use the same judge pool. The teams get to just roll up on the day still, but they get to be a part of that big competition, but still finish out the series. Because ultimately, the guy who wins that, or the team that wins after round 4 for backyarder, we're flying them over to LA to actually compete with the backyarders at Brew'n'Que next year, if it opens or when it opens. So when it opens, we're not only going to have the winners of Brew'n'Que fly over, but we're also going to have the Backyard Series winner fly over and compete. Now, in the US, that normally gets 50 or 60 backyard teams in that comp. So they're going to step up in obviously how many people are competing. But what an experience, right? Like it's...
Oh, amazing. Absolutely incredible.
And I don't think a Backyard Series has ever had that level of prize pool. And why not? Why not give these guys a full taste of where they can go with the sport, right? So they're hungry. They're hungry to win. So,
I'll bet. Yeah. No doubt about that at all.
Yeah.
I love that idea. There's a I don't know if you follow the UFC, but there's a TV show. I think it's just called The Ultimate Fighter, and it's all run by the UFC. And what they do is they take 12 amateurs and they put them through a 12-week kind of reality TV show, using my air quotes. Yeah. And the winner of the show gets a spot in the professional UFC. Is that kind of a similar idea with this, or are you aiming to move everybody into the pro series?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen that show, to be honest, but it sounds very similar to what we're trying to do. Look, as I said, ultimately what we want is these guys to transition over to the main circuit. And then, next year we've got a new bunch of teams coming through to fill their spots. So we're constantly growing, right? So we should have more teams signing up each year. That's my aim. And transitioning to main comp scene than what we have falling off. And that's how we're going to grow, right? And that's the directive we've given the team. We have to build this team. It's it's imperative that we do it. Otherwise, we're building brands and that for something that's at some point is going to have issues, and we don't need to get to that point. So, yeah.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, so we've had a big chat now about bringing in these teams into the Backyard Barbecue series. You've got some tips that you want to share with us for people that are looking to get into competition barbecue. So let's pick number one and get started with that one. What's your first tip?
I think the biggest tip is if you're thinking about getting into competition barbecue, you need to approach your local promoters and have a chat to them and say, how can I do it? Now, I'm hoping that if other promoters, look at this and they haven't got what we have in place for the Backyard Series, that at least these promoters might be able to say, hey, you know what, I can put you in contact with his team. They might be willing to, like Smokin did here in Perth. Stefan's format a number of years ago did that sort of apprentice style thing. I think that's the biggest tip. If you want to get into sport and have some fun, approach your promoters, your local guys that are putting the comps on, or your local groups. If you can't do that and you can't do that, then maybe look at organising a Backyard Series yourself. You don't need to go with sanctioning and all the rest. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like just get something happening. Just get some people together and have a friendly cook-off. And, you might be able to team up with some of those guys and actually start jumping into some of the bigger events. So that's the biggest tip, mate. To do,
So just sort of grab three mates together and have a steak off at home.
Yep, I think so. I was speaking to Chef Phil Dell in Vegas this morning, probably 2 hours ago, and we were talking about the Backyard Series, and Phil said to me, that's pretty much what he used to do back in Vegas. They used to just grab some mates and grab a whole heap of guys together, and they used to just have a cook-off, right? And might have some friendly wages and stuff. But I think that's worst case scenario. You need to go to your promoters and say, hey, how can I get involved, guys? I want to be involved in what you're doing here. What can I do? Who can you put me in contact with that I can team up with? Or can you tell me, is there a way I can do less proteins and I can just do part of it? Like it's obviously an option for people to do not all 4 categories, but is it publicized? Most of the guys we've spoken to all think you have to do all 4. Well, no, you can turn up and just do 1 or 2. It doesn't mean you're going to get the points for that series, but it's not made aware. And I think that the promoters need to say to teams, hey, if you want to jump in and have a crack at it and only want to do 1 protein, just do it. Have a go. And we need to push that point across the public. So.
That's a good point. I'd never actually thought of it that way, but you're right. No one ever says you can do 1, 2, 3, or 4.
No, and it's the options there. No promoter's going to say to you can't do it, right? Brew'n'Que in October, we had teams that was a full master series, right? 4 proteins. we had 2 teams there only do 3 of the categories. They knew they weren't going to GC, but they knew also that they wanted to do well in those 3 categories. So, the options are there, but it's just not publicised. And I don't get why, because that's the simplest way of getting people into the sport. It's a no-brainer. It's already there. Just push that tool across. So, yeah.
That's a good idea, mate. Good idea. Now, you mentioned apprenticing there just earlier. Would you recommend that people that want to compete start trying to contact existing teams and just see if they can just be like a guest on that team for a particular competition? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, look, I think we've seen that model rolled out in the past where people have done that, and that's all good and well if you know someone in the scene, right? But you still got to find out the details. And to be honest, most of your event organisers and your promoters, or your event organiser, right, they're going to know which teams are more suited maybe to taking on someone. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some teams there that just, man, they're just, you go in their tent and try and talk to them during when they're cooking and get ready for turning, right? You're going to get a finger. Like they're going to be kicking you out, right? So, I think your event organizer is going to know who's the best person for you guys to team up with. They're going to give you a bit of direction. It doesn't hurt to approach these teams, but how many teams are going to take kindly to a guy saying, "Hey, I want to jump on your team"? Like they're going to. So I think your first point of call should be your event organizer. And then maybe from there, your event organizer is going to go, man, I'm getting so many inquiries. Let's get together a pool of teams that want to do it, so that when these guys ring, I'm not having a brainstorm. I've actually got a list of teams now that have listed down that said, yeah, we're interested, and then he can put them in contact. And I think that's where the event organizer then steps away, right? Makes that contact and leaves it up to them. So that's probably the best way to do it. But it's up to the event organizer whether they want to do that extra work. So
that's quite an interesting idea of having the promoter actually try and line up some barbecue mentors before the competition kicks off, so that if they do get approached, they can say, "Hey, look, here's the sub list of teams that have said they'd be willing to mentor a newbie."
Yep, because that throws it back on not only us as organisers and promoters, but that throws it back on teams to help in that process of recruitment, right? It's their sport. So I think, the more of us at all levels and all sort of facets of the scene that can get involved and help nurture that, it's only going to be a win-win, right? So it makes sense. It's just, it's a no-brainer.
Beautiful, mate. There's some definitely some good tips in there for those people listening who are wanting to make that move from their own backyard into your backyard barbecue series, or into even all the way up into the big competitions there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, our doors are open, mate. Like it's, we've got a number of Eastern States teams, and if there's guys that are over there, so we've got Eastern State teams that come over and fly over. We got equipment for them, and we welcome everyone on the East Coast to come over and compete and be involved in our events. But if there's any guys that are a little bit cashed up and can afford to come over and fly over, and want to jump and have a crack at even one backyard series, man, if they get in contact with us, I'll set them up with equipment, and I'll give them our keys, and I'll get them all their equipment. If they want to come over and just have a jump in and have a crack at just one watered down event, then, we'll compliment that, and we're happy for them to come over and do it. Like, we're more than willing to do that. So,
mate, that sounds like a fantastic weekend away to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can organise everything. And, I know it's a long way to come, but you know what? I flew to Sydney to learn how to barbecue, so it's not that unrealistic to do, right? So
That's true. That's true. All right, listen, man, I'm going to throw the studio over to you now. This is a good point to sort of start wrapping up this episode. So, give some shout outs, give some thanks to people who've helped you and supported you on your journey, and then tell everybody where they can track you down on the social media.
Yep, excellent. So obviously today, the main players that we sort of have helped us with our crazy ideas and our goals and sort of what we've been pushing for is Hezi and the team from Honeybricks, Pit Boss, invaluable. Those guys are doing sensational work. 90% of what we're doing at the moment wouldn't be possible without those guys and the backing of those guys. So they're heroes to us and the format. The local butchers, we've been supporting the local same local butchers now for the last 3 years. Ian Johnson at Melville Heights Meats. We've got Tender West and Clayton's. They're owned by Mike Fielder. He owns those 2 shops. Raymond from down at Warnborough Quality Meats. I think most of you guys would know him. He's all over the socials. And Mondo Community Warriors. Mondo Butchers. Mondos have been very supportive over the years as far as meats and suppliers. So, they're the main guys that we've been working with, and they've made everything we've done today possible. So they're doing good stuff. So, yeah. That's it. And I suppose, look, the biggest one for me personally, getting away from barbecue events, is Harry Sue. Harry Sue, for me, ever since that first class, he is my mentor. I speak to him, if not on a monthly basis, every few weeks. We're in contact either by text or speaking. Harry's been the driving force behind a lot of our strategies and our ideas where to go with BBQ Events Australia and building the scene. So without Harry Sue, starting this all off with that obsession Sydney, and then providing that mentor sort of role to me over the years, he's the key to everything. He is the key to everything that's BEA. So, I'm going to thank him big time. So.
He's a top guy, that one. And
he is, mate.
And make sure you tell everybody where they can track you down on the socials as well.
Yeah, so if you jump on, we've got obviously website. Does anyone use the website anymore for the events? I'm not sure, but we've got that set up there. So that's bbqevents.com.au. You can track us down on Insta and also on Facebook under BBQ Events Australia. Both those platforms, you can catch up and keep an eye on what we're doing and sort of any new concepts that we're coming up with. So, yeah.
Beautiful, man. Absolutely fantastic. Look, thanks very much for your time. I know you're a busy guy. You've got like 700 things you got to get done today, and you've still got another 999 ideas you got to come up with in the next 9 minutes left out of this hour. So, mate, I'm going to say thank you very much for taking time out and coming on the show and sharing all these thoughts and ideas with us.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate, and thank you. And listen, all best of luck with that Meat Fire video, that new platform that you guys got. I think we'll definitely be getting in contact with you and getting some stuff rolling, I think, on that. So that's awesome, mate. Good work.
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there you have it, family. That was Jason Linto from BBQ Events Australia. How interesting was that to hear all the different ways that Jason and the team are challenging the conventions in the barbecue industry and coming up with new ways of doing things. Make sure you check them out on the socials to be kept up to date on all their competitions, classes, barbecue celebrity events. I mean, you heard it all in that episode there. These guys are doing so much, and it doesn't matter if you're at the pro level or if you're just starting out. They've got something to take care of everybody. So do follow them and make sure that you keep up to date with everything that they're doing. Now, before we go, take a minute and give this video a like and a share on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, and hit that little notification bell. If you're watching on IGTV, give us one of those little love heart follows. And if you're listening on a podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and review as well. It lets the robot overlords know that you like the show and that they should show it to other people who might like it too, which in turn really helps us out as well. And just one final reminder, head on over to meatandfiremediaservices.com and check out what we've got going on over there. There's some really cool stuff going on. And if you do decide to enroll in that course, 25% off, code word podcast. So, and that's all we have time for today. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.